Good evening. It is 7 o'clock. I'd like to call the council meeting to order Wednesday, October 25th. We will start with the opening prayer and the pledge. This evening we have Elder Cram Bishop to lead us in the prayer.
Let's bow our heads. Father in heaven, we just thank you. We thank you for your blessings, for your hand on this community, on all the families here, on this governing body, Lord. We thank you for continuing to provide, Lord. We're praying right now that your hand would continue on this group, on this community. Lord, we pray over all the families, all the schools, all the government bodies, Lord, the safety and public welfare services, Lord. We're thanking you for the growth in the city. We're praying that you continue to use us, every company, every organization, to continue to just to serve better, Lord. Lord, right now we pray that this time is productive, that you are glorified in the work that is done here in this city. We thank you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Please remain standing. And this evening we have Tanner Bickley, fifth grade student at TES, to lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Tanner. Okay, Mrs. Burton, please call the roll.
Becky Allman.
Here.
Jonathan Bolus.
Here.
Adam Bozick.
Here.
Mary Gutman.
Here.
Carol Kilway.
Here.
Dennis Lowry.
Here.
Craig Ciesick.
Here.
We are all present this evening. Item 4, minutes of the meeting from October 12th. Can I have a motion, please?
Move to approve the minutes from October 12th, 2023 as presented.
Mrs. Kilway, second.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Allman. Any discussion on the minutes? Mrs. Burton, please call the roll.
Jonathan Bolus.
Yes.
Adam Bozick.
Yes.
Mary Gutman.
Yes.
Carol Kilway.
Yes.
Dennis Lowry.
Yes.
Craig Ciesick.
Yes.
Becky Allman.
Yes.
Minutes are approved 7-0. Financial reports, we have none this evening. Public hearings, we have one. So I'll turn it over to you, Mrs. Kilway, and you can open the public hearing.
Thank you. It is 7:01. I'd like to open the public hearing. We are at third reading for ordinance 2023-82, Exhibit A, Tract Exhibit A, amending and supplementing Section 1104.05D, Commercial Uses Table, and Section 1104.07E8, Use Regulations, Automotive Car Wash of the Tallmadge Codified Ordinances. And at this time, I'd like to ask if there's anyone in the audience that
State the time. Did she?
If there's anyone in the audience that would like to speak in favor of ordinance 2023-82. Okay, is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak against ordinance 2023-82? For the second time, is there anybody that would like to speak in favor of ordinance 2023-82? Anyone that would like to speak against ordinance 2023-82? And third and final time, is there anybody that would like to speak in favor of or against ordinance 2023-82? Okay, hearing no additional public comments, it is now 7:04, and I will close the public hearing. And at this time, I will open the Planning and Zoning Committee. We are all present. And is there any discussion on this ordinance?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Bozick.
Probably a question for the administration. I know at the last council meeting, I had brought up a question in regards to the distance for the car washes and it being, I believe, moved up to 500 feet, if I'm not mistaken. And what that would do for, I guess, the likelihood or eligibility of a car wash being placed within
Tallmadge.
those set, sorry, I'm at a loss of words, the set district or the correct zoning, whether they were eligible to even move into a set location. Was there any further, I guess, investigation put into that and the likelihood of that happening?
Elaine's here, that will answer those questions
Great,
for you. We
thank you.
did put a PowerPoint presentation together on that topic.
Perfect.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mrs. Hussing. Thank you for being here this evening.
Mayor, if you could just get to those maps that I created. So in response to your question, and you had received this presentation in paper, so I wasn't going to go through it again because it felt like it's going to take a lot of time. But what I did is that first map that you just saw that had the whole map of Tallmadge kind of gives you an idea of the economical development areas in our city, kind of gives you a perspective of how much land is available. And to answer your question, I could have spent a lot of time trying to find every possible space that is available, but my time is limited as well. But I did find, I started with the next slide on South Avenue. So future planning, years ahead, that is the parcel where U-Haul is located. If they were to, for example, parcel out the front parcel there, you see the 500 perimeter circle there. That shows that there's no impact on any residential or consumer business. The next one is where the former, I always refer to it as the Donato's Pizza building, but I
Yes.
know there were other businesses in there. And so you'll notice that the bright red area at the top of the graphic there, that would be impacted. However, the beauty of this code now is that we have changed the permitted use to conditionally permitted use, which allows the planning commission to add extra conditions or allowances if they put into place noise, nuisance, what's the word?
Abatement or remediation
Abatements,
measures.
remediation items that around their development, they could offer with the noise study that we could request them to submit, that would be permitted. The next two slides, so that's the Rocco Plaza. Actually, a couple years ago, a car wash was interested in being right there. Again, you see the 500-foot perimeter. Again, no impact on residential or the consumer uses. And that one is I just randomly selected a corner of Carmen and West Avenue. And again, no impact. To remind you as well, the existing car washes, this code doesn't really affect them. They are grandfathered in. It's legal non-conforming unless they make more than 60% changes. So hopefully that answers your question.
And to just clarify, Helene, that was just on West Avenue in particular, that's like a sample of what it could be, and you didn't take the time to do every single potential
Yeah,
parcel,
there's
so.
multiple
Sure.
ones.
Yeah. No, and I appreciate you looking into that and giving more detail into it. I understand that you have limited time, and you definitely put in the work with this ordinance, so I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else further from council, discussion-wise? This is at third reading. Is there a motion on this at this time?
I'd move to adopt.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance 2023-83. Any further discussion?
Mrs. Kilway?
Yes.
I would just say that during the moratorium and then during these readings that I have heard nothing negative about this from anybody, not like a car wash trade association
Right.
or other businesses or residents.
Right, and same here. I think this is, it's just it's a very nice tool to have. It's a good way to just regulate a little bit and make sure that we have all of our i's dotted and t's crossed, so.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I'd just like to publicly thank Mrs. Helene Hussing for the work that not only Helene, but also Mrs. Raber that put into this ordinance. She's done her homework. She's went far and above what we would expect. So thank you, Helene, for doing all that great work, and Megan.
Yes, thank you very much, Mrs. Hussing and Mrs. Reber. It was a lot of extra work that we did ask, so thank you. We appreciate it. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Mrs. Burton, would you please call the roll?
Adam Bozick,
Yes.
Mary Gutman.
Yes.
Carol Kilway.
Yes.
Dennis Lowry.
Yes.
Craig Ciesick.
Yes.
Becky Allman.
Yes.
Jonathan Bolus.
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 2023-82 has been adopted by a vote of 7-0. At this time, I'm going to close planning and zoning, and so we can get on with the rest of our agenda.
Thank you, Ms. Kilway. Item 7, community input. This is the time in our meeting where if someone in the audience would like to address council about something that is not on our agenda this evening, now's the time to do that. Is there anybody that would like to speak to council tonight? Seeing none, let's move on to item 8, agenda additions. This evening, we have a presentation for certificate of appreciation by Councilman Bozick.
Thank you. This evening, I have the honor of recognizing somebody that I feel has really contributed a lot to the city, a lot to our youth, to our parks department, really. And his name is Ryan Miller, and he's currently the Tallmadge Marlin head coach, and in his professional side, he is a membership director at the Shaw JCC, and he's been previously an aquatics director at Riverfront YMCA and the Shaw JCC. That's a mouthful. But just a little history about Ryan. So Ryan began swimming for the Tallmadge Marlins back at the old YWCA 25 years ago when he did some swimming lessons there, and that's where he really grew his passion for swimming. And that really resonates with me because I'm a Parks and Rec kind of guy, and that's my background. And to hear stories like that somebody's been inspired to want to carry on basically their whole career because of just one swim instructor, that's pretty afamazing. And that's basically what Parks and Rec is all about. So, like I said, that story really resonates with me. But so after Ryan did graduate from high school from Cuyahoga Falls, unfortunately, I'm sorry. But he went on to become the swim coach shortly after, or I should say the assistant swim coach at Tallmadge, coaching under the direction of Julie Hedrick at the time. After about 2 years, he moved into the head coach position, and he was there for a total of 6 years. And during that time, he basically led a team from last place to, Suburban League, second, third place. He really did a wonderful job, instructed or coached some kids that basically rewrote some records up there. And this is something you'll hear on repeat here with his whole career because that's just how good of a coach he is. When he moved away from that position, he stepped into, or he's currently entering his 6 years head coach at the Stone Manor Falls High School. But he has been a very consistent, a very steady and inspirational head coach for the Tallmadge Marlins for over 14 seasons. And that's going to continue for another 14 seasons. I'm sorry, Ryan. You have no choice. But he has been just inspirational to so many kids. And I have 2 kids that are on the swim team. And my youngest is, he's a fish. And Ryan has been so great with him from day one, where he could barely swim across the pool to he's been the highest point earner, like 2 out of his 3 years. So a lot of that is due to Ryan and his coaching ability and just how he is able to communicate to the kids and just get on their level, which is a huge thing for coaches nowadays. And I just want to thank Ryan for, personal thank you, but then also from the community standpoint as well. The Tallmadge Marlins would not be what they are today if it was not for you, sir. So on behalf of the City of Tallmadge and Tallmadge City Council, I'd like to recognize you, sir, for all your accomplishments and everything you do for us. So thank you. You want to say a few words?
No, why not? No, no. It's been such a amazing experience coaching this team, and I have no plans of going anywhere. So many great years under a great board, great community. Excited for many more.
Here we go.
Okay.
There you go. Nice. This way. You know what IT wants.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Ryan, and thank you, Mr. Bozick. All right, we'll move on to our reports. We'll start with the mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll try to be brief. The Joint Dispatch Center is going extremely well. Today, Cuyahoga Falls moved in, so we have everyone except one community that's in there. So it's almost completely fully functional. Working out a couple glitches with some radio stuff and some tones and that going off. But all in all, it's really moving extremely well, so I'm very proud of what all of Summit County has done. The fire station number 2, I could happily say that the doors are done, functioning, painted, powder coated, cleaned up, and everything is working well. I shouldn't say that because I'll knock on, and then we have our grand opening on November 11th at 10 a.m., which you all are invited to, and it's a grand opening, open house for the fire department. Also happy to announce the Tallmadge Police Department, we were able to make an offer to the very last position available on the hiring aspect of it. That person did accept, but we're going through a couple final things, and so we will be fully staffed at the police department with the command staff fully in place. So really happy with Chief Bohan and everything that's gone on up there. The budget, Jill, I don't want to take Jill's thunder away. She'll talk about it here in a minute. But again, the budget that Jill and Molly and all of the department heads put together and worked on back and forth. It's been a while since we started this, but it is, I feel, a great budget for council to consider. I thank Councilman Cisak and Councilman Bolus that came in and we talked this past week. I think it was this week. Was it this week? Monday. And then Councilperson Kilway was in last Friday. So thank you all for coming in. Everybody's welcome to come in. We do have a budget hearing on November 1st at 6 o'clock. We're welcome to talk more about it at that point. Tomorrow night, don't forget, that's why we're here on Wednesday. It feels like this is a Thursday, but this is only Wednesday. Beggars Night in Tallmadge, starting at 5:30. And then Friday night, movie night at the Rec Center, Hocus Pocus. And like consideration, we already adopted the ordinance 82. Then we have 83. That is the Northwest Avenue. That's at third reading, asking for that. And then the companion to that is allowing us to apply for the land bank to receive funds for the demo of that. That's 91. End of report.
Anything for the mayor? All right, thank you. Director of Administration, Mrs. Stritch.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Health Care Cost Committee, Containment Committee met, and we discussed the 2024 health care renewal. with Jefferson Health Plan, who we are currently with. And we're happy to announce that our increase for the renewal for 2024 is 6.83%, which is really a favorable rate for insurance. The committee did approve that today unanimously, so we can move forward with our health insurance for 2024. We will still be looking at vision and dental, but this is the health care, okay? You have this evening the appropriation ordinance for the 2024 budget, ordinance 2023-87. I placed also in your mailbox yesterday late afternoon a working copy, I call it a working copy, the large legal document that's the 2024 appropriation proposed with the current year budget and then the prior 2 years as well. And just some little notes on the side to assist you if you wonder why maybe there's some variances of different types or changes. You should also have a booklet, the 2024 appropriation workbook. And I give you that just to briefly highlight some items in the 2024 budget, because if you go through the whole thing, it gets it's a lot. So I tried to briefly just highlight some of the items in the budget. It also has the anticipated fund balances for 2024, and it also has some of your capital project item sheets that can help you get started on that too. As the mayor said, we have a work session scheduled for November 1st at 6. So we are following along our timeline, so that's great. So I like that, and thank you. Also, you have on your agenda tonight ordinance 2023-89 for negotiations with the part-time firefighters. Their contract ends December 31st of this year, and in accordance with SERB, which is the State Employment Relations Board, you have to give notice to negotiate within 60 days prior to the end of a contract. So this is just a procedural placing of this legislation on the agenda. We have not talked to the part-time firefighters yet. We hope to soon so we can get started on that. But that way you only have 3 readings left this year, and so hopefully we can meet with them and talk with them, and it would be fantastic if we could adopt that this year, but that's why it's introduced this evening. And that's all I have right now. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Thank you.
Anything for Mrs. Stritch? Thank you. Director of Public Service, Mr. Rohr.
Good evening. I'd like to request ordinance 2023-88 be passed this evening at first reading. That's the Sourcewell Cooperative Purchasing Program. Moving on to the report, the leaf season. I got a little nervous 2 weeks ago that we might start early. We're not starting early. We're starting on time. We've had a few leaf vacs out in some sections, not in section 1, but in sections 2, 3, and 4 over the last 2 weeks, picking up some miscellaneous piles. But we're right on schedule to start. Next slide. Last meeting, I asked for possible legislation to be passed at first reading for AMATs, grant opportunities, funding opportunities, and I have the numbers this time that I didn't have last time, so I'm going to come to the next meeting and ask for this to be passed. Application there, Surface Transportation Block Group funding. This is for East Avenue Phase 1, total projects $12,855,000. That's for right-of-way and construction. The 20% would be $4,686,000. You can see there, application number 2, STBG resurfacing of Monroe Avenue between East and the South Corporation, and that's $1 million project, and our portion would be $220,000. Application number 3 is a resurfacing one. It's Eastwood Avenue between Monroe, I don't know why I put Falls there, Monroe Avenue to the East Corporation limits. And it's $646,000, and our portion would be $149,360 there, 20%. Last time I had up there an application, a CPR for the roundabout engineering. Turns out that that CPR will not fund engineering, so I pulled it. We were approached this week from Monroe Falls, who asked us to partner up on doing the signal and pedestrian equipment upgrade at intersection of 91 and North Moreland, which is by the Metro Parks. So we actually go, part of that road is ours up there. I don't know if you remember a few years ago, we had an emergency crossover replacement we did. We asked them to partner up with us and do half of it. They did half of it at that time. I think it'd be appropriate to have join them in this one as well. And our half, you could see there, it's the 350,000 upgrade in the signal. And that would be the radar ones that we have now, not the loop, and not the activators. Our portion would be 60,000. I think it'd be worthwhile to jump in with them on that as well. So I'm looking for some sort of head nod from council to say,
I have a question about the Northmoreland
Yep.
pedestrian equipment. I don't know if there's any sidewalks that go into that intersection. And if they do, I don't know if they go anywhere.
that I know that they have crosswalks getting from that corner over to the Metro Parks. And I think that's the pedestrian beacon that they're talking about. There's that, what's that market store?
Yeah, there's a market there, but I mean, it's not a heavily pedestrian traveled area. You have parking at the top of the hill at the Metro Park.
It's there, I think it's just replacing what's there now.
Okay.
I think there's some don't walk or don't cross signal there now,
Okay,
so,
thanks.
absolutely.
But the signal probably needs upgraded, yeah.
Yep.
Roundabout.
Moving on, the 89 East Howell Road, the building portion is down completely. You can see the wall in the background. That's the footer wall that remains. That's over 800 feet long, believe it or not. Pretty impressive. They finished it in less than a month in actually pulling down the building. A lot of cleanup to remain. They're optimistic that they can still meet the Thanksgiving deadline. However, now it becomes the tricky part because as they start removing the pavement, now it starts getting muddy. So the rain will start here. I mean, we know the rain's coming. So it all depends on the weather moving forward on whether they can meet that Thanksgiving deadline or not. But still, great, Alfred's been doing a great job up there. No complaints. I don't know, anybody remember this slide from 2021? We were doing the paving program and we showed the asphalt pavement condition rating over here. And remember I said the good, that green is not good because all that's very low good. It was like 73, 75%. So fast forward, we just had our pavement condition rating redone in 2023. Spin that. And you can see in 2018, that's that slide you just saw without the little circle. You can see the green. The pavement rating on the right was the new one, and you can see our roads are getting worse, not getting better. The orange, the yellows, the reds, you don't want to see that. You want to see more of that light green than anything else. Spin it one more time. Thank you. So here it is broken down again. 2018, the asphalt's on top. 2023, the asphalt's over to the side. You can see we're losing ground in the good condition, and that's not what we want. There again, we need to see more of that dark green. The plus to it, though, is we have gained ground on the concrete. 2018 to 2023, the bottom two boxes, you can see, you don't want to see very good concrete. That means you just replaced it all. Concrete's different to maintain than asphalt. It doesn't take as much to maintain. It should last longer as long as you maintain it. So you should see more of that light green than anything else when it comes to concrete. The red section is actually Howell Road. And we know we have not done anything to Howell Road because we're engineering that to do a road diet and put that back in, to put that in the asphalt. One more spin. Here's the problem with asphalt though. So it's different than concrete. It doesn't last as long. So we're not even getting 10 years out of this pavement. The picture on the right's Maple, which was done in 2017. It's unraveling. So that the aggregate's coming out of it. It's popping. That's not what you want to see. One on the right is slippage. That's over on Ledgebrook. There again, it's 2016. We should be getting better life out of our pavement. Nobody is. They don't make it like they used to. They put RAP in it, which is a recycled product. We do not allow RAP in our surface course of our asphalt because there again, why would you put an inferior product into your asphalt if you wanted it to last longer? We're trying to do a couple things. There again, maintenance is different. We do crack seal. Then you get into the other seal coats, the micro seal, the chip seals. I know that's a funny thing, but I'm telling you folks, we gotta look at something else because we're really a one-trick pony when it comes to asphalt. We mill and we fill. That's all we do. We need to figure something out because we're not getting our life out of it. Reason why I'm bringing this up, I actually asked for $2 million in paving this year for budget. And I think you guys will see the numbers. It's down to 1.2. That's great. But, you know, the cost of everything's gone up, so you're not getting the bang out of the buck like you used to. So something you just got to keep in mind. Electrical charging stations, we talked about this last time. I need to get an answer back to Serpentini. Did anybody give it any thought last time? Are we interested in doing this? Are we wanting to do this? They threw in $40,000 for the chargers. It's going to cost probably $60,000 to put all these in. Do you want to put one in? Do you want to put two in? I'm trying to get a feel. I mean, I think it's the way of the future, but there again, I think you won't see any real revenue out of this thing for 10 years because there's no electrical cars out there yet.
Is this, are these, like superchargers or are they just regular chargers?
No, about 20 minutes to half an hour, and then they have a swipe card on them. That's how you know, the person using them would have to swipe it in.
Yeah.
And just a follow-up question on that, one of my hesitations on this is the technology, right? And it's still early on in the technology phase, and it's ever-changing in terms of hybrids and superchargers and whatnot. So my hesitation just lies on like, if we want to do this, you know, and invest in technology that might change or, you know, at a rapid pace over the next couple of years.
If I may,
Yeah.
we are receiving the electronic portion, the technology portion, free of charge. Our portion is providing the electric to it. So at Community Drive, down by that Bierce little hut there's an electric panel there that needs to be upgraded. So part of our portion is just to upgrade that. Serpentini's providing the device. We're not buying that device. And so if the electronics change, then Serpentini, Chevy, or whoever would provide us with the new technology. The one at the fire station number 2, we have one out in the parking lot right now that we installed per the project. I've asked Spielman Electric, can I take one of these Serpentini ones and change it out? Because the one that we installed does not have the credit card machine in it. And so we have it shut off right now. Because there's no really way, and it was probably bad on our behalf because we're new. What do you put in out there? But so they're looking at that to upgrade the one out at Station 2 so someone could park in that outer parking lot and do a fast charge.
But there again, I like Serpentini. They're great sponsors of the parks in the city, and there again, we owe them an answer. And I'm not. I mean, we didn't budget for it, but
Yeah, I just think that we owe it to our residents to do something to help provide some place for them to charge their cars to. And since, as you explained, we don't own the electronic portion of it, and those could be upgraded through through Serpentini or whoever is donating them. I think we should do some of them. I just don't know if we should do all of them or not.
Let me correct myself
Sure.
here after listening to you say back what I said.
Right.
They're donating the equipment to us.
Okay.
But we're not buying it, so it's being donated. So if it is obsolete in the future, either we remove it totally if we don't want to upgrade to a new style, or we get another grant or someone else wants to donate one of those items to us. But
Okay.
they
Yeah.
are a moneymaker for the city.
Right, right. So I think we should do at least some of them.
Yes,
And-
they are.
I think this has potential to bring business into the city too. It's a marketing tool to say that we have them. There are people that, if you have an electric car, the apps show you where these chargers are, and people plan their stops on their trips based on that. And so maybe right now that utilization isn't as high, but it's going to be higher with the bills that have been passed on the federal level. So I think being forward-thinking that I agree, we should do some of them and gear them more towards where we think the commercial use it might apply or be the best benefit.
Where they could maybe stop and get a cup of coffee while they're waiting the 20 minutes for it to charge?
I have a couple things to say about this. I would think that if this is a moneymaker, that the public sector would not be leading the charge in this. The private sector would be the area where they would be leading the charge. So I don't think it's a moneymaker. I think there's a reason for that, that we're not seeing these pop up on a private base, because it probably isn't beneficial, or it isn't a big enough revenue generator for them. The other thing is, in the state of Ohio, there's about 34,000 electric vehicles, registered electric vehicles. So that's only basically like 1% of the population of vehicles in the entire state. So there's some kind of misconceptions about how many vehicles there truly are. And I understand that percentage is increasing, but we have to remember that that percentage is increasing when we hear about electric vehicles. It's because of states that are leading the way, like California and Hawaii, states that have very, very strict EPA regulations when it comes to vehicles. So I'm hesitant to favor these because I don't see them being utilized like we think they would be utilized, because I don't see the need for it as much as we think there might be. The other thing I was going to say was, I don't think we necessarily owe anything to our citizens to put these stations in, because typically when you buy these vehicles, you will get a charging port of some kind in order to charge from your home. Or a lot of times they install kind of an upgraded one that will supercharge their vehicles at their home. So for the most part, they're already being charged at their place, their home. I don't necessarily see a need for it to be charged out in public when they're commuting to and from work and vice versa. So that's basically like saying we owe it to all of the citizens that buy gas cars to put in a gas pump at City Hall to allow them to buy the city gas. You know, that's basically what we're saying. We're saying we're going to provide EV charging stations. Well, why don't we provide a gas station for the other, 98% of the drivers in the state of Ohio? So I don't see necessarily a need. I don't see really any need for it, but I could certainly see that if the numbers did grow as we think they would, maybe, but at this current time, I don't see any need.
If I may speak again, I think Serpentini isn't a government business. The last time I checked, that is private sector.
They're going on public land.
We're
providing the electric.
excuse me, they're increasing the amount of companies putting these in regularly. They are, if you watch and follow along with what's happening, which just on a personal level I have, because my husband has quite a long commute, they are increasing, and private businesses are doing it. So from that respect, I think, like I said, I think we need to be forward thinking with it. And you're right, maybe it isn't residents that would use it, but people we want to come into the city and bring into the city and market, that we're offering that to potential people who are shopping at our businesses, that ability. Or maybe driving on the highway, we want them to get off the highway and stop and see our thing, us, instead of going 20 more miles down the road to the next charger. So, would it be profitable right this minute? Maybe not, but It has a huge potential. I think it's something that we could lead the way on.
Based on what, one of the things Mrs. Gutman said when she spoke the first time, I think our investment's $60,000, Mr. Rohr.
If we did all locations, it would be,
So all six, 10,000 a location, right?
give or take.
You know, I've been around a long time, and we spent a lot of money on a lot of things. I mean, I remember how much money we gave Mr. Barber to make his pop shop go away. So to invest in something that has some potential, albeit far down the road, that looks like it is a trend for sure. Electric vehicles are here to stay. I would support putting maybe two each, two at the rec center, two at the city's parking lot on the circle, and probably two at Lions Park at the hike and bike, so that people that would tend to be residents and/or users of Tallmadge facilities would have the opportunity to charge their car while they're doing something else.
Can I just give some information, background? Back in 2022, when we were first approached by this, I did do some inquiry with, through my Government Finance Officers Association to determine what other kind of communities had these stations. Were they charging for their use? What did that look like? What third-party vendor were they using? Because we would require a third-party vendor, so obviously they're going to take part of that also. I only got about 10 responses, half charged, half did not. Closest to us was Hudson. They charge $1 per hour to charge. They make $6.95 a month on people charging their vehicles. So while I do believe there could be economic drivers to that, the return on investment is not going to be high. You have to think about it as another city service that is being offered. There is not going to be a large return on investment. One of the bigger cities that has had more success with it is the city of Westerville, which is down in central Ohio. They have a lot more electric vehicles than we have up here. And the way they actually make their money on it is not the actual charging. It's if people stay in the charging, parked in the spot after they're done charging the car. So they park in the spot, the car charges, they get a notification on the phone, your car is fully charged. If you do not move it in 10 minutes, we're going to start charging you $25 for every half an hour that you're parked in the spot. Okay. So the electricity in and of itself, if you're just charging for the electricity, it is not going to be something that's going to be sustaining the cost of the equipment or the electric that we put into that. It's going to have to be thought of as a city service, an economic development tool. You have to think about it in that realm, because I don't see, based on what I've inquired with other communities, and that's why a lot of them don't even charge, because it's more work to charge and do all that collection than they're actually going to get in revenue.
I guess my 2 cents would be it's location, location, location. I think we look at the demographics of who's purchasing electric vehicles, what they do and utilize and purchase. I think a partnership with the Metro Parks would be ideal. North Avenue, Monroe Falls Meadows, Northwest going out towards Kent at the Bike and Hike Trail, something at the rec, maybe something out East Avenue towards the JED. and then something here at the circle. But I think that's what you have to look at is who are the people that are using, that have electric cars that will be using it. And you look demographically, it's people who are on the bike and hike trails and things like that. So I think, four within a quarter mile probably isn't ideal. But to Mary's point and Dennis, people are coming to the rec center for basketball tournament. They're gonna come from Jackson maybe, or wherever in Canton, Stark County, come up, park, charge their car, go watch a game and leave. I think that's where we're going to provide that public service. And again, the parks and the bike and hike trails, that's what people are using, and I think in that demographic would be beneficial.
If I could just make another comment about this. And I won't put words in Jessica's mouth, our Parks and Rec superintendent, because she may or may not feel this way, but if you were to offer her $60,000 right now for an improvement within a park, I bet she would take it, as opposed to electric charging stations.
Well, that's sort of unfair.
And I don't know.
Statement there, Adam.
Wait, I'm sorry?
That's really an unfair statement, because if I offer Mike Rohr $60,000 to put in asphalt, he would absolutely say yes.
Because when you look at it, you're providing a service, which is what city government is designed for, providing a service to as many people as possible. And electric charging stations are not providing a service to as many people as possible in your city. It just isn't. So when you consider the location of these, nobody's going to go charge a vehicle in the center of our city at Lions Park. And you might get a random one or two, okay? The majority of these charging stations in the state of Ohio are one of four things. In a commercial business, like a large business, corporate business, where they have a large amount of employees, hotels, car dealerships, and right off the highway. Those four are the four biggest locations of charging stations. Well, in a fifth one, universities. Okay? So we have basically, where do we fall on that? Okay? We have a highway. Do we have land near there that we would utilize a charging station? Because if we're going to do this, that would be the most beneficial place to put one. Because when you look at a map, there is nothing on the 76 corridor from basically Kent all the way down to until you get to Akron. So and actually it's even worse than that. There's nothing at all from Youngstown Austintown to Akron. There's nothing at all on 76.
So, not to interrupt, but the reason why we chose those locations is because we own the electric at those
Right.
spots. So we don't have electric anywhere else
Right.
in the
And it's a
city.
destination place, the Tallmadge Rec Center.
And I understand that they're
1,000 teams,
destination
Community
places.
center, the post office, or not the post office, but the library.
Right.
The West Avenue parking lot, because they could walk to Dunkin' Donuts, they could walk to the restaurants, half an hour lunch, and they come back and their car's done. Those are all strategically located for the purpose of that. Believe me, that's why Mike brought it to you. Someone say yes or no, so we can just move on from it. But I think in this environment of trying to be good stewards of our energy and everything else, when they said, Dave, would you like to have free chargers if you could help us install those? And that's what it was.
Right. And I understand that aspect of it. I just think that we may be trying to do something that the public sector really shouldn't be involved in at this point, because the majority of what is out there is not owned through the public sector. It is owned through private corporations, the businesses that own them, or the car dealerships, and so on. So I am not in favor of it. I think we could better utilize $60,000 on our residents that would have a bigger impact.
Well, let's, if Mrs. Raber will allow this, let's poll so that we can give Mr. Rohr an answer.
Straw vote.
Yeah.
Are
Yo-
are you dead set on those locations?
No, I'm not dead set on the 60,000. I mean, I would go for 25. I owe Serpentini an answer.
Yeah, no, I
Yes.
agree, I agree.
And-
But I mean, so it doesn't sound like the Metro Parks is an opportunity because we don't own the electric there, is that
Yeah.
what I'm hearing?
Yep.
Okay,
These are all locations that we looked at, our electric panels. What could we do to upgrade? How easy would it be to get out? And what is the purpose for someone going to that location for? And that's why we picked these. You know, the Freedom Trail, Lions Park, ball games,
right.
rec center, community center, library, and City Hall. I mean, one was gonna be right out here in the bottom parking lot of City Hall. That somebody wants to come in and pay a water bill and plug in, half an hour later, that's why. I'm sorry to interrupt. Dennis, go ahead.
No, it's good. And Ms. Kilway, you can start and we'll go down. Just come down, or I can start and we'll go your way. Doesn't matter to me.
Yes. Sorry, I didn't have my mic on. I say yes.
I'm struggling a bit with this one. I'm gonna have to say no.
No.
Yes.
Yes,
I'm going to say no, and the reason I'm saying no is the mayor. The mayor said something that really struck a chord with me. He said that if we offered Mr. Rohr $60,000 to lay more asphalt, he would gladly take that. And to Mr. Bozick's point, I think that the $60,000 on asphalt would serve our whole community better. So I think it's 4-3, no,
4-3, yes.
4-3, yes.
4-3, yes?
Yes.
1, 2.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes, yes.
yes.
Becky?
4-3, yes. Thank you.
I had a question for Mr. Rohr before we get too far along. Back to the asphalt and the slippage and the bubbling and whatever issues we're having with it where we're not getting the 10 years. Is it beneficial to like increase the depth of what we're grinding down? Like instead of going 2, should we go 4? Is it a depth issue? Is it just a materials issue? Is it an installation issue? Like, give me some more information.
It's material and installation. So going deeper is not gonna really make the difference. So you
Okay.
need a better product. And we are changing our spec. We've been changing our spec. Like I said, our top surface, we will not allow any recyclable product
Right.
in there at all. And then we have inspectors out there now that we didn't have before, every day. So we always had inspectors, but they weren't out there religiously. I mean, we have them out there now all the time. So there's always somebody out there. So that's making a difference. So if we can change some of the AC product, which is the liquid in the asphalt, maybe enrich that a little bit, put more of that in there. That's the piece that holds it all together. If we could put more of that in there, I think you get a better asphalt out of it.
Do you see difference in the different years on, who installs it? Not necessarily the installer, because I know we go out to
Because
bid.
we sample it, so we go and sample every so many truckloads to
Right.
make sure that what we ask for in our bid is what we're getting.
Getting.
So there shouldn't be much difference.
Okay. Last question. There's probably no guarantees or anything like that to say, hey, this should last 5 years, or has a 7-year kind of warranty-ish type of thing. It's probably not heard of in the asphalt paving.
No. We used to get about 20 years out of it, and now you're getting 10. I mean, but there again, they're not allowed to heat the plants up like they used to. And there again, like I said, they're putting that wrap in, which is that recycled. So they're putting the millings back in, and
Yeah.
that just makes no sense to me. I know it's a place to put it, but at the end of the day, that's already an inferior product. You're putting in something new. That has never made sense, so.
Okay. All right.
And
Thank
just-
you.
Just a follow-up question on that. What would what are the criteria for like a winning bid in that case? Like, is it just low bid in terms of cost? Is it the quality and the specs? Like, what would make up like?
Lowest and best bidder. And
What-
so they have to follow that spec that we put out. Every bidder that bids on it has to follow that spec. And then, like I said, we test that asphalt, and then we have an inspector out there to make sure that we're putting down 2 inches, or 4 inches, whatever it is that we put in the spec, so.
Okay.
Anything else from Mr. Rohr this evening?
Thank you.
Thank you. Director of Finance, Mrs. Gilbride.
Good evening. I was absent at last council meeting where council did receive my financial report, so I will be glad to answer any questions at this meeting if anybody has one. I did want to bring to council's attention, this has slipped my mind the last few meetings, to let you know that the state budget bill did include an increase in the municipal bidding threshold that has now been increased to $75,000. So council will now need to authorize any purchases and bidding of contracts over $75,000. The legislation did provide for a 3% annual increase to that number beginning in 2025. So we do not need to change our ordinance because our ordinance states that it is, we follow the law, the general law. Or the charter says that, I'm sorry, not our ordinance. The charter states that we follow general law. So that just rolls into our procedure.
Thank you.
Ms. Gilbert, I have a question, since you brought that up. So you had stated that it states in our charter 50,000, is that
No, it's whatever state statute.
whatever the state? Okay. So we do have an ordinance, basically, then, that says we follow the state guideline. So would it be beneficial, or would council even be able to institute an ordinance that would either say we follow it to this specific number, or we follow it to a number that is less than that?
So we raised it a few years ago from like 25 to 50 to follow the ORC. That's my recollection. That's probably going back
Yeah, when I started on council, it was 5,000.
6 or 8 years ago, we changed that. So, I mean, I think we probably could, I don't know.
Megan? He's asking if council can make it less.
I'm going to have to look at it more because I think that there is something in the charter that says general law, so you'd have to change the charter. So I think there's a charter and there's an ordinance, and so I'll take a look at it. I didn't realize this issue was going to come
Okay.
up today, so.
All right, thank
We'll
you.
look at it again.
Thanks.
Thanks. So, Mrs. Gilbride,
Yes.
thank you for doing the research on the EV chargers. That was nice of you to do something on your own like that for us. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And this is a financial question, but actually it's going to probably you and Mrs. Stritch. I've been reading and hearing that the amount that municipalities have to pay into OPERS is going to increase our share, the city's share. Is that,
Well, that has to be approved by the state legislature.
So that-
So they're
It's in
both,
front of them now.
it's in front of them now, so it will
The-
not be part of this budget?
correct, and it's a phase, they're going to have a phased in. So the police and fire pension is requesting to increase, currently the police, employer portion for police is less than the employer portion for fire. So they are requesting to increase the police to the same percentage as fire, which is 24%. So right now, we pay 19.5% for police, and that would increase to 24. I am not sure on the exact number of years they want to phase that in, but it is a phase in. This had actually been in the legislature last year also, because they actually wanted to increase all of them, including the fire, to 26%. So they've kind of dialed that back a little bit because that went nowhere. So they've changed to the 24 for police to match. OPERS would like to increase the employer portion from 14% to 18%. So, and again, I'm not sure, I have not seen anything yet with what that phase-in looks like. But those were just recently introduced to the legislature.
All right, so in your mind, it's nothing that we need to prepare for next year?
No, I don't
can't
think
say
you're
that.
gonna see anything that would probably, being at where we're at right now, I would hope that the legislature would respect the fact that municipalities are passing their budgets right now and would not have that available. I would hope that they would take that into consideration and at least give us into the 2025 budget year to make those adjustments.
Thanks. Anything else for
Mr.
Mrs.
Chair.
Gilbride? Yeah, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, so this past Tuesday, we had our monthly Mayor's Association meeting, and we had a legal update from Columbus at the setting. They are taking public hearings right now on the fire and police down in Columbus. There are large concerns of a lot of the small municipalities, suburbs, townships, that if they have to go to 24% for the police, they will not be able to fund their departments, and therefore they would have to cut patrols in order. So there's a lot of hearings going on as we speak right now going on in Columbus.
Thank you.
And we have a rep down there speaking in behalf of Summit County mayors.
Anything for Mrs. Gilbride? Anything else? Thank you, Mrs. Gilbride. Mrs. Raber.
Thank you. Thank you for everyone who wore red on Monday to kick off Red Ribbon Week. It's greatly appreciated. We have the signage out on the circle to bring awareness to this national campaign for alcohol, tobacco, drug prevention, abuse. And so we also have our drug take back on Saturday. We would, again, welcome people to come to the police department to get rid of any of your unused or unwanted prescriptions or over-the-counter drugs. It's a great way to dispose of it. We take care of making sure it's disposed of in an appropriate manner. And you don't have to get out of your car. You just drive to the back of the police department and they will take that. If you're not able to make it on that day, which is Saturday from 10 to 2, we do have a drop box location in the lobby of the police department, so you're always welcome to get rid of it there as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anything for Mrs. Raber? Thank you. All right, let's move on to item 10. Let's get to work on our legislation. We'll start with Mrs. Kilway, Planning and Zoning.
Thank you. I'll open Planning and Zoning Committee. We are all present this evening. We have one ordinance in front of us, 2023-86, Exhibit A, Tract Exhibit A. We do have a public hearing on this matter on December 14th, 2023 at 7:01 p.m. And the ordinance is amending and supplementing Section 1110.02, minor subdivision, and Appendix A of the Tallmadge Codified Ordinances.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Just to give council a brief update on this, this is not a substantive change in the code. This is a clarification to make it easier for the contractors and the surveyors to come in to be able to read it. So Mrs. Hussing's done it. I think I said that correctly?
Not really.
That's what she told me today.
If she could present today since she's here so that she doesn't have to maybe return to council another night, that might be nice.
So, this is an ordinance, in the subdivision section of our previous zoning code as well as this zoning code, replatting of lots was really not addressed really to the best benefit of surveyors. So, we had quite a few comments from other surveyors that said, what are the procedures for a replat? So, together with them, our city engineer, the ORC this rewrite section, it's just really one section in the minor subdivision chapter that is addressed, that will address the replat in a subdivision. It just clarifies it more. So it is a substantive change, but it's more procedural. It's not going to affect the end result. And the reason the Appendix A is in there, because we added a definition for replat, which was really a requirement. We needed to define replat.
That's what I said.
Something like that.
That's what you told me. Thank you, Mrs. Kilway.
Okay, is there any questions while we have Ms. Hussing here? No questions on this matter? Okay, like I had indicated, we do have a public hearing on December the 14th. Anything else, or anything from council on this item at this time? Anything from council on any other item with planning and zoning at this time? Hearing none, I'll close committee.
Thank you. Finance, Mr. Cisak.
Thank you. I'd like to call finance to order. We currently have third readings of ordinances and resolutions. Ordinance 2023-83 amended, authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement to purchase 892 Northwest Avenue, parcels 6006239 and 675251 from the Summit County Land Reutilization Corporation, providing for immediate enactment. Is it going to go into the CIC?
No, this will stay in the city. This is going to be, once we demo the building, we'll green space it and just make a flower bed coming in. Welcome to the city of Tallmadge, to get rid of the blighted building that's there. There's no intent to sell this property at this time.
It's the old muffler repair shop, if I
Yes.
recall.
I mean, I know there's always been talk for the intersection
Right.
to upgrade Barney's Busy Corners, the Buckholzer Loop. If you've been around long enough, you've heard all those terms. This could go to help that intersection upgrades in the future.
The side that it's on, you would be leaving Tallmadge though, right? Versus coming in?
Half glass full, half empty.
Okay.
I mean,
Or something with Cog Falls, that's all, They want to put a sign or something.
no, it's all.
Cuyahoga Falls does have a sign.
Oh, do they?
And
Okay.
they have it between Bailey and Talmadge Road.
Okay.
There is a welcome to Cuyahoga Falls sign.
Great. All right.
Mr. Cisak?
Yes, ma'am.
A quick question on this. Are we concerned about any environmental issues since that was a automotive place?
We do have a company that's looking at doing the phase one on it, but as long as you don't, you can tear down, you can green space it. If you go to sell it in the future, then you have to worry about the environmental, but there is that grant that's coming up next, and that's, I think, 91 is one of that. We did do our cursory around the building, and knowing the history of that as the muffler shop, there's no, it'd have to have a phase one and possibly two.
Thank you.
Okay, can I have a motion, please?
Move to adopt. Second.
So a motion is second to adopt ordinance 2023-83 amended at third reading. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I just want to do, at least in the agenda I grabbed from the desk, the plat number or the parcel number's incorrect on the agenda. It's correct in the ordinance. So it was that second parcel number of 6753251. There's, it's missing a 3. So
Put
not
the-
that it should matter really for the ordinance, but
Yeah.
just for the records of the agenda itself.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mary Gutman,
Yes.
Carol Kilway,
Yes.
Dennis Lowry,
Yes.
Craig Ciesick.
Yes.
Becky Allman.
Yes.
Jonathan Bolus,
Yes.
Adam Bozick,
Yes.
Ordinance 2023-83 amended has been passed by a vote of 7-0. Moving on, ordinance at second reading, 2023-84 Exhibit A, amended tract Exhibit A, amending and supplementing ordinance 2022-81 to amend rates, charges, and fees for all recreational facilities and providing for immediate enactment. Does anyone have anything on this?
Councilman,
Sir?
what was amended was when you rented the church, you had the option not to rent the restroom, and that's ludicrous. I mean, so now you are going to have to rent the restroom when you rent the church. I mean, you more than one.
Is the restroom in the church?
No, it's in the old town hall, so it was always an
Okay, I
additional
understand.
$25 fee, so
Yeah.
now it's no longer an option. The $25 fee is just in the rental of the church.
Okay,
So that's the change from last meeting.
thank you.
Mr. Sisak?
Yes, ma'am.
I would then move to adopt ordinance 2023-84 at second reading.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance 2023-84, Exhibit A, amended tract Exhibit A. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I believe I'm looking at the correct grid here for the pricing. There are several other changes, it looks like, in that pricing grid, not just about the restrooms for the church.
Councilman,
Yes, sir.
so this was presented last time, so I'm hoping nothing changed other than the church. So yes, there are other price changes.
Okay.
Correct.
So, yeah, just wanted to discuss some of the other price changes that were in there. So in relation to MACA, it looks like we're increasing daily admissions fees for ages 3 to 12, and for ages 13 to 59, $5 each, taking them to $15 and $20. And I guess I can understand the reasoning and maybe some thought process behind why we would increase that due to the attendance and the popularity of the pool. My only concern would be that if we continue to put a cap on the total number of memberships, which I believe we have in the last several years, I think at 2,000, if I'm not mistaken, do we anticipate reaching that cap? And if we do, my concern would be for our residents, because it's regardless of residency, and then again, I understand why we did that as well, because we don't need a line out the door and then asking people that are in their swimsuits, do you have your ID so I can confirm residency? And that process is very lengthy. So I get why we made it that way. But for example, a family of 5 that wants to go to MACA would be charged then 2 adults, and for me, I would have, by next summer, it would be a total of $95 to get my family into MACA for one day. So that sounds like a lot, and I get it. I understand, especially if I'm going to pay to get passes. I could just pay $210 plus an additional $30, which would then put me at $240 for my family. So can you kind of walk me through
The logic?
the logic, what kind of justification we put in behind this?
Sure.
Change.
So, there again, price of everything's gone up, chlorine's gone up, all the chemicals that's going in the pool's gone up, that's one thing. Second thing is trying to stay relevant. Clearwater Pool in Hartville, for adults is $22, for children it's $15. Waterworks in Cuyahoga Falls is $25 for adults, children's it's $20. Kim Tam, which is in Springfield, it's $20 for adults and $15 for children. And then Baylor Beach, and there again, the pools don't exist anymore. I mean, that's one of the, so 17 for adults and 17 for children. So we're just trying to stay relevant with those cost increases, but mostly because of the price for the chemicals.
Okay. So of those facilities you listed, do the majority of them, or I guess how many of them offer like an annual pass or a membership?
I believe the 2 for sure do. I'm not sure about the other. So Waterworks does in Clearwater. And that's where you're getting your benefit as a resident, is to get the pass. I mean, like you said, it's
Right.
$220, and one day it could be $90.
Right. Right, exactly. So I guess that would be my concern is we are pricing it in a way to draw people towards the membership, essentially. But my concern would be, what is that cap number? And do we continue to have that cap number?
So we are increasing the memberships again this year. There again, we are going back to the 2021 numbers and not the 2022 numbers. So we are going to increase the membership.
Do we know what that cap is?
Off the top of my head, I'd be making up a number for you. Molly, do you know what that was?
I don't recall off the top of my head, but we can get that information for you.
So we reduced that last year because remember, people were concerned about the crowds that were getting in there. So we reduced it, seeing what we saw this past year, we're going to increase the membership again to the previous years of numbers.
Okay.
So do you anticipate the membership prices staying the same for 2024?
Yes.
So, Mr. Rohr, I'm guessing if you keep membership prices the same and you increase daily rate, that's because we want to encourage membership sales.
Correct.
And there is a member guest rate also, isn't there?
Yeah, there's a
So members can bring guests. This would be strictly for someone coming, knowing nobody else, members or anything there.
Yes. May I ask a question?
Of course you can.
All right. Regarding the section on page 2 around the Tallmadge Marlins, I just wanted to say thank you to the two gentlemen that were here, one was honored tonight. They make the Tallmadge Marlins program possible. It's my understanding that there's a use agreement that was proposed to the Marlins for operating at MACA. The language in the grid states the Marlins swim team's permitted customary use as approved by the superintendent, but won't that be changed to state based on the use agreement that has not yet been executed?
Yes, and at that time, we'd come back and make that change. So there
And
again, no one's signed that use agreement yet.
Yeah, no, and I hadn't planned on bringing this up until I was looking at this and realizing that I haven't not seen that. I just, in discussing it with Mr. May this evening, wanted to bring it up here if there was any implications to membership rates, because if you're a member of the Marlins, you're required to get a pass.
Correct.
And then as a part of that use agreement, there's going to be a couple challenges presented around restrictions on practice times, things like that, usage.
No different than you already have now. It's just in writing now.
Right, and I'm just trying to make sure that there's no tentative changes on, that'll impact any of the rating here.
No, not for the Marlins.
Okay. Again, I haven't seen the agreement.
And it's still being worked out, still being discussed. I think the Marlins sent back some revisions, and I think Jessica and Megan are reviewing that
Okay,
to send it back.
okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I have one further question
Yeah,
for
go
Mr. Rohr. Also, within this grid, on the page 3, softball, baseball fields, we have crossed out Lions Park and Howe Road, and in brackets, it says all city-owned ball fields. So my question there with that is, because this has certainly been something that, when I was at the rec center, I questioned or at least asked about, does this mean that we are opening up rentals of all of our city-owned ball fields? So that
Yes.
could be the whole, that could be MACA.
So there's a use agreement with Little League, and they have their schedule. So if when they have their schedule, obviously they have first right to those fields. Outside of their schedule, based on the use agreement, we can rent out. We could run our own tournament if we wanted to on all
Sure.
those fields.
So looking at what I know about baseball and softball, does that mean teams that are not technically Tallmadge Little League, teams that are privately run, even if they are coaches of Tallmadge Little League, are they paying for rentals of those fields?
Well, it's a public park, as you know, so at any time you can show up and use a ball field. You and your family can do that.
Right.
However, if you're an organized group and you show up to use the ball field and another team shows up that did schedule those fields, you have to move on. So yes.
Okay.
Non-Tallmadge, a little-
Would that technically be the same then for any tournaments that they run?
Correct. They would have to, we have tournament fees now, so we set those in
Right.
place about 4 years ago.
Okay.
And so, yes, those tournament fees, yep.
Are these teams aware of this change?
Tallmadge Little League?
Tallmadge Little League and/or these travel teams?
Yes, I mean, at the end of the day, Tallmadge Little League, that's a use agreement with them, so they know about it.
Because in the past, it has been basically a use agreement with a sublet, basically, a sublease of these fields. So are you saying that that will still continue as it is? Or are we saying we only have a use agreement with Tallmadge Little League?
No, so if Adam Bozick wants to run a tournament up there on our fields and use all 7 fields, you can set that up, but you'd have to go through the city.
Okay. All right. That answers my question. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Sisak?
Yes, ma'am.
Just one more thing, as Mr. Bozick drew my eye to this section where it says softball and baseball fields on page 3. There's just a minor little, I see the one change where it has Tusk and Sousa R is crossed out, and it says Tallmadge soccer is permitted because those two have combined. If you go up a little bit farther, right underneath where it says tournament maintenance fee, then there's a star tournament maintenance fee applies to all city-owned fields, including those used by Little League. Then we have Tusk and Sousa, so we do need to just make that quick change, and that just needs to say Tallmadge soccer.
Since we're talking about that, Tallmadge soccer, I see here, it does say per lease agreement for Tallmadge Little League. Do we currently have a use agreement for Tallmadge soccer?
Correct.
So maybe we should add that wording in there that says per our lease agreement. Because I believe, at least in years past, they've been charged a certain amount for fertilizing or something like that, so it might be beneficial to have that wording in there.
Sure.
Thank you.
Could I ask another question?
Yes, Mr. Flowers.
So, Mr. Rourke, regarding our use agreements for outdoor fields, are they consistently written so that we are treating all of our youth leagues the same?
Pretty much.
Okay,
Yep, they're real close.
all right.
Obviously, it changes with
Yeah,
sport,
yeah,
but they're pretty
okay.
close.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So this is third reading. We have a motion on the floor. We have a second. Do we want to vote on this? Or we need to,
This is second reading?
Second,
oh, I'm sorry, I lost track of.
yeah.
The motion was to amend?
No.
No, it wasn't to amend.
To adopt.
It was to adopt. If you'd like me to remove that motion.
You need to amend it
Needs to be
first.
We need to
first.
amend it first, yes, thank you.
And
I
then
will
if
re-
there's any other amendments, like cleaning up this language that you want to include, you would need to state that tonight. It would stay at second
Yes.
Okay,
tonight with the amendments, and then you could contemplate it next.
so I will remove my motion.
We have to amend for a type, for a change in a word?
We don't have to, but since you're
It was a
doing an
dollar
amendment
amount.
anyway, we might as well just state that to change, to delete the Tuscan Sousa
It
to
was
Tallmadge
for a
soccer.
dollar amount is why it was being amended.
That was the original. Yes, so the original was a $25 increase that started the conversation.
Right.
So, and then we started discussing the other language changes and some questions came up about that. So I would have to defer to Ms. Raber on what we would be able to.
We can
either
amend it. with the-
Amend it as it
with-
is stated, or should we make those corrections?
You can, why don't, since there was other corrections that were mentioned, and you have time on this before December, because even if you amend it in November, it will stay at second in
Second.
November, and you can still adopt it in December
Right.
for implementation in January. So why don't we just come back with all the changes that were discussed. We'll get them in writing for you and then have them ready for you at the next meeting. And you can contemplate a different amendment and just not take any action on the amendment tonight. Does that sound agreeable to everybody?
So we have a motion and a second, so it needs to be withdrawn.
And I did withdraw my motion.
I withdraw my second.
Thank you. I think we're on the up and up there. I don't know, time will tell. All right, moving on, we have first reading ordinance 2023-85 Exhibit A, amending section 182.03, imposition of tax, section 182.05, annual return filing, and section 182.18, interest and penalties of chapter 182 of the codified ordinances of the city of Tallmadge regarding municipal income tax and providing for immediate enactment.
Yes, so I did provide council with a summary of kind of what was changing and why. These changes were included in the state's biennial budget. They were kind of corrections and some hot button issues that the state had been dealing with the state tax ordinance that governs how we as municipalities can impose our local income tax. The major points are that they are allowing businesses, due to the remote work environment, to make a decision if they want to apportion their net profits to their location of business or if they want to apportion them to where all their workers are working. So I can guess how most businesses are going to elect to do that, but they do have the ability to make that election due to the new remote work environment. There were some municipalities that still taxed individuals under the age of 18. We did not do that. We do that here in Tallmadge. However, there were a few language modifications that were required in our ordinance to kind of eliminate the idea that they were taxed. They did give net profit filers an additional month of an extension to file their taxes. I'm not sure why they just picked them, but so net profit tax returns get 10 months, or they actually get 11 months after their fiscal year end of an extension, whereas most federal returns are 10 months. Let me see, there's a couple more. They've also, I'm not sure who was doing this, but they also felt that they did not want cities contacting taxpayers who are on extension to asking them why they have not filed their return, because cities are not allowed to require a taxpayer to notify them they're on a federal extension, but we have to give them credit for federal extension. So probably what was happening was after the tax filing deadline, some municipalities, if they were not informed by the taxpayer that they're on extension, they probably sent them letters. Well, the state said, you're not allowed to send them letters anymore. You just have to wait till October when the tax return's due, and then if they haven't filed, you can send them a letter. Rita already waited for that, so again, not a big impact on our tax ordinance. However, we're changing the wording so that it's very clear we're not doing that. And then finally, they changed the penalty back to what most municipalities were doing before they changed it when they made the big overhaul in 2017. So when the state did the big municipal tax overhaul, they changed the filing penalty for a non-filer to $25 per month up to $150. Well, ours was a flat $25 fee. So now it's changed back to a flat $25 fee, and we are required that the first time somebody misses their filing deadline to waive the fee, which was standard practice also anyway, but just making sure that language is incorporated into our ordinances. So I've given you a summary. Obviously, take time to digest it, not asking for first reading. We just have to have this adopted prior to January 1st, so by the last December meeting. And I'll be glad to answer anybody's questions if they have any questions about any of the sections.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
question for Ms. Gilbride. Or I'm sorry, Mrs. Gilbride. I don't know why I said Miss.
Because I'm so young looking, right?
Thank you, maybe, I don't know. So for Mrs. Gilbride, the particular ordinance, or the House Bill 33, does that encompass all of the tax code, or is this just
These are
picking
specifically
out
picking
specific?
out. So House Bill 33 is actually the state's biennial budget.
Okay.
So they incorporated these language changes because they're a tax revenue thing. They can
Right.
incorporate that into the budget. So it's just these items. It is not a redo of the whole tax code.
Okay, so, and again, just kind of digesting this here, but does it reference, like if I wanted to really dive into this and look at the actual tax code section, does it reference that specifically?
The Ohio Revised Code section of the tax code or the,
Yes,
I'm sure our ordinance references that exactly, but I will send you what the exact
okay,
Ohio Revised Code, tax code section is that governs our tax code.
okay, that would be great, thanks.
Okay, so we'll leave that at first reading for this evening. Thank you very much. We also have ordinance 2023-87, Exhibit A. It's adopting a budget for various funds of the city of Tallmadge, Ohio for current expenses and other expenditures during fiscal year ending December 31st, 2024, appropriating the necessary funds for the administration thereof, authorizing transfers between funds, and providing for immediate enactment. There will be a public hearing on December 14th, 2023 at 7:03 PM. And we will have our budget work session next Wednesday, November 1st at 6 PM.
Yeah, and Mr. Cisak,
Yes, sir.
I believe, and if you disagree, you can speak up now. I believe there was consensus from council that they would like to have that work session live streamed. Is there anybody that disagrees with that?
I just had a follow-up in discussion with Mr. Davis and Justin, that was indeed live streamed last year.
Okay. Yeah. So that work session, for those that are live streaming this evening, and just to let you know that work session will be live streamed as well.
Thank you. Moving on, we have ordinance 2023-88 at first reading. It's authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract for the purchase of a HVAC system chiller through Sourcewell Cooperative Purchasing Program, appropriating the necessary funds and providing for immediate enactment. Mr. Rohr, would you like to share your knowledge on this?
Yes, thank you, Councilman. So, as everybody knows from last time, our chiller, which is at the rec center, went out. There's no way of repairing it. It needs to be replaced. I'm asking for first reading because the price of this chiller goes up November 1st. The main reason, though, is the importance of timing here. We need that chiller up and running, operational by March, and it's on a delivery of 15 to 20 weeks time. So this Sourcewell is a cooperative purchasing program, so the bidding's been done for us. The price of $124, as we shopped around, is within reason.
Thank you. Can I have a motion, please?
Move to adopt?
Second.
So a motion and a second to adopt ordinance 2023-88 at first reading. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will ask the clerk to call the roll.
Carol Kilway.
Yes.
Dennis Lowry.
Yes.
Craig Ciesick.
Yes.
Becky Allman.
Yes.
Jonathan Bullis.
Yes.
Adam Bozick.
Yes.
Mary Gutman.
Yes.
Ordinance 2023-88 has been passed by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you.
Is there anything else to come before the Finance Committee this evening?
Mr. Cisak?
Ma'am?
I want to correct myself from earlier. I should have known that I didn't mention this for a reason. I was incorrect, as I should have conferred with the law director. our ordinance does actually specify still 50,000. So we are still at 50,000, and then we will be looking at that ordinance to determine if we want to move forward with that threshold increase and do that. So I apologize for my misspeaking. I should have checked with the law director, as I would advise other people to do before they speak.
So, so we have an ordinance that says 50?
Our
And-
ordinance says 50, but the charter says as, what is the? general. As the general law.
So the
So
char-
those two are.
So the charter would supersede the ordinance?
No.
Well, it's more restrictive, so you can pass legislation that's more restrictive than a charter, just like in the
Okay.
Constitution. You just can't have it be less restrictive.
Got it. So then council may take up whether they want to keep it at 50 or raise it to the 75.
Correct.
Thank you for the clarification, Ms. Gilbride. All right, hearing nothing else, I'll go ahead and close committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Earned your money tonight. Personnel, Mr. Bolus.
Yes, thank you. Call Personnel Committee to order. We're all present. At first readings, this evening, we have ordinance 2023-89, authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with the Tallmadge Part-Time Firefighters Association consisting of Tallmadge part-time firefighters and providing for immediate enactment. Point of order, I wanted to ask a question. This goes 3 readings, correct?
It could go one, it could go all three, but I'm asking it just to give it a reading tonight.
Okay. All right. Any discussion on the ordinance at first reading?
Mr. Bolus?
Yes, Ms. Kohler.
Just due to my familial relationship with my husband being on the part-time firefighters, I will not be engaging in any conversation on this ordinance.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, if you can remind me about roughly how long, and I know every agreement is different and is
3 years.
negotiated differently, but how long did it take the last agreement to come to an agreement, I guess?
I don't know.
Okay.
The last 3 years ago, how long did it take to come up with an agreement with them?
And I
It does
understand things are retro, and there's obviously a lot of changes that can be made in 3 years. I was just, from looking at it as a whole, the agreement is coming up, correct, at the end of the year? Is that my
Yeah,
understanding?
3-year contract.
Three-year contract comes up. I guess my question would be is it customary or is it required by law or some ordinance that we wait until like the end of the 3-year term or a 3-year agreement, I'm sorry, to
So,
then introduce the ordinance that gives you the right to start the negotiations or?
I mean, typically, we start about 6 months ahead, depends what unit it is. Next year, it's going to be all 3 major contracts,
Right.
which will take, I would think, at least 7 months to
Sure.
get to a final.
It'll take 3 days.
Depends how much you, so it could take 3 days, it
Sure.
could take 3 months, could take 6 months. Under this case, I'm not sure where we're at, and we can talk in executive session about, what points of the contract, but I'm not going to do that.
Sure, yeah, no, I understand. Yeah, and I wouldn't ask that. I'm just trying to go back through my memory, I guess, of.
And also just understand with the part-time fire contract, it's a much simpler contract than per
Sure.
se the full-time, just because we're not dealing with leave and those kinds of issues.
Understood. And so my second question then is, do we have a current number of how many part-time firemen we have
28,
or firewomen? 28? Okay.
roughly
Around.
right
yeah.
in that, 27, 28.
All right, thank you.
All right. Thank you all. We'll keep ordinance 2023-89 at first reading. Moving on, ordinance 2023-94 tracked. There's a public hearing on December 14th, 2023 at 7:06 PM. This is establishing the number of non-collective bargaining employees by department and position pursuant to RC 731.08 and providing for immediate enactment. Seeing as there's a public hearing on this on December 14th, is there any discussion on ordinance 2023-94?
Mr. Bolus?
Yes.
Yes, this ordinance may look familiar to you, but this is the ordinance that will go along with the 2024 budget. So we do have a current, I'll call it personnel grid. So this goes with the 2024 budget. So if there's any position in the 2024 budget that's being presented, it would go with this legislation. So this will go in tandem with the budget. So if the budget is changed, this will change. They should mirror each other. So this is not ready for adoption. This is just going along with the budget. It needs to be adopted when the budget is adopted, and it will, it's companion. So this is not ready for adoption.
And if I may, I also wanted to just state for the record that we know that there's going to be an amendment to this coming to you at the next meeting. We need to have we still need to have the comp board meet to be able to go through the newly adopted point factor discussion and looking at the analysis to place some of these in bands. And so that's why some of them are blank. So it is, but because it is companion to the budget, we wanted to make sure we were adopting it so they're traveling along at the same time. So there will be an amendment to this presented to you at the next meeting.
All right. Thank you very much. Any other discussion on ordinance 94?
Well, Mr. Bowles,
Yes.
I would just say that I had a conversation with Mrs. Stritch, and I imagine Mrs. Kilway has as well, because we both have different personnel desires, I guess, if whichever one of us wins the election. And Mrs. Stritch suggested that we go ahead and handle this personnel as it's written, and then either Mrs. Kilway or I would bring something back to council in January.
All right. Thanks very much. With that said, I'll go ahead and close committee.
Another full page.
Okay, thank you. Safety, Mr. Bozick.
Thank you. I will open the Safety Committee. We are all present this evening. We have a first reading ordinance 2023-92, appropriating additional funds for dispatch services from the Summit Area Regional Council of Governments, SARCOG, and providing for immediate enactment. I'll turn this over to either, looks like Finance Director Gilbride.
Yes, so as we had stated, when we were putting together last year's budget, not knowing when the dispatch center was going to open, we did not include any funds for 2023 into the budget. We've gotten to the point, obviously, as the mayor reported, that they are moved over and operational, so we are going to be expected to make a payment. So we are being billed for actual costs from 2022 when they hired the director. Summit County has been fronting those costs for all of the agencies while we've kind of gotten to this place. So we've been billed actual costs from the fourth quarter of 2022 through the third quarter of 2023, so that's September. So basically a year worth of costs. Those two, during those preliminary stage, are about $25,000. Then we're going to be billed based on estimated budget for the fourth quarter of this year. That is an additional $143,000. So that's how I've arrived at the request. And then what will happen is the COG will adopt their 2024 budget here in the next, by December, and we will be billed quarterly, and then there's an annual reconciliation to determine actual versus budget and that gets carried into the next budget year.
Thank you. I have a lot of questions circling around that. Can you just walk us through, since this is going to be kind of a new process for all of us, how does that process work, or how does it look? What role does a city play in helping to determine that 2024 COG budget? Do we have any involvement, I guess, in what that looks like?
So obviously we have a board member who votes on that, but then there are also committees. So I also sit on a finance committee where we meet with the director, we look at those figures, we assess those budget things and ask those questions. So it's still a new process because obviously we haven't gotten to the point where they're going to be in a full year of operation until next year. So that is the process. There's a finance committee, which I sit on, that evaluates the spending and looks at those budget figures. Then that committee recommends to the board that budget for adoption. So there's kind of a working group and then the board itself, of which we are also a voting member.
Okay.
There's 5 members of the board.
That was going to be my next question, is can we get a list of the board members just for reference?
City of Tallmadge,
Yep.
Cuyahoga Falls, City of Stowe, City of Fairlawn, and Summit County Executive. So all the mayors of those 4 plus the county executive or their designee.
Okay. And then will we on council be given, I guess, probably don't need a monthly update, but maybe quarterly or semi-annual update of, here's kind of what we've talked about. It doesn't even have to be a council, just even to shoot us an email of the agenda or whatever. But we'll be given, I guess, on a regular basis of some, whatever that basis is, but, or schedule is, given that information as to what is discussed and how that process looks and works and.
Are you speaking just specifically the budget, or are you just
Both.
specific?
I'm saying, because I'm assuming how often does the board meet?
There's actually a monthly public meeting scheduled for
Okay.
the board. But that agenda comes out, and I know that they are doing a newsletter. So, I guess it would be up to the administration's prerogative with an agreement with council as to how often or what they're looking to have reported back to them.
All right, yeah, that's all I'm looking for, is just some sort of an update at some point of what it is, how it looks, how is it operating, obviously. And then the same, I would assume, for the finance committee, that you guys are meeting on a regular basis, so.
Yeah, so we actually meet every month, a week before the actual board meeting.
Okay, all right. Great, thank you. Anyone else on council or administration have any questions, comments?
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
What would we have paid City of Stowe Dispatch for say half of October, November, and December? So I'm sure there's going to be.
Yes, I'm working with the city of Stowe right now so we paid them semi-annually.
Okay.
So
we may get.
I'm working with Stowe right now to get a refund of what they are owed. When we paid that in July, it wasn't clear when we were actually going to be starting. So we did pay the whole year. So I have notified the Stowe Finance Director that, we are looking to receive a refund for any fees that were not incurred.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. That is a good question. Everyone likes a refund. Any other questions in relation to ordinance 2023-92? Hearing none, I'll open it up for any other comment, questions for the administration, council. Mr. President.
Well, the mayor referenced this, but I am extremely happy. I'm extremely happy that we are going to be at full force in our police department for actually the first time in 10 years. So this is it's good news, really good news.
Yes, thank you. I did, I echo that sentiment that we are back to full strength. I think we could probably do more still. We definitely should do more, but that's probably a discussion for another day. But I am very happy that we are able to be back to full strength. I know that our members of our police force are definitely going to begin breathing sigh of relief, so. Anyone else for Safety Committee? Hearing none, I will close committee.
Thank you very much. Community issues, Mrs. Gutman?
Thank you, Mr. Lowry. I will open community issues. We're all present this evening, and we have before us at first reading ordinance 2023-93, expressing intent to sell unneeded, obsolete, or unfit real property known as parcel 60-02371, located on Shanafelt Avenue, not needed for municipal purposes, and providing for immediate enactment. Mr. Rohr or Mayor, would you like to?
Yes, so we brought this to council, gosh, probably in January or February. This is the piece that's behind Osceola, behind the Freedom Trail. The city purchased it at one time for possible easement reasons and did not need it.
It was donated.
Donated. And it was donated and it was for easement reasons, and we didn't end up using that for easement. So we've been maintaining it. It's pretty much a useless piece of property for the city. And we did put it out for bid for someone to purchase. We never got a single bid on it. We did go to the two adjacent neighbors of it and asked them both if they'd be interested. The one neighbor did come back and say yes.
Okay, thank you. And do we want to keep this at first reading? Okay. Did anyone have any questions or comments?
Mrs. Chair,
Yes, Mr. Bozick?
how would we conduct the sale of this property? Would that be through the Summit County?
No, it's directly from us. It's,
It'd be a direct sale to
yeah,
the-
this authorizes us to enter into the agreements to sell the property to that particular landowner who's the only one who's made an offer on it. And it is unusual to do that, but again, we've already exhausted the means of trying to sell it through auction, and we got no bids. And it is not a buildable parcel, so again, it's not very desirable, and the only real people that probably would have an interest are the two neighboring persons. So it's really a matter of getting it off of the city's books to keep us from having to maintain it and continuing to lose money on it at this point, so.
Thank you. Mrs. Kilway?
Yeah, this is a piece of property that we've spent money doing an appraisal on it, putting it up for auction. We have to maintain it. And so I think this is a good way to dispose of it and get it off our books. We've gone through every single step imaginable that we can do, and I think this is a good ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, I'd agree with that. Anyone else? Okay, then we will keep ordinance 2023-93 at first reading. And I will just say for trick or treat tomorrow to remind everyone that even if it isn't quite dark yet, that you are still not as visible at dusk, and to wear reflective gear. Put it on your children, please, and have fun. Is there anything else for community issues? Okay, seeing nothing, I will close the committee.
Thank you, Mrs. Gutman. Public Service, Mrs. Allman.
I call the Public Service Committee to order. We have at first reading ordinance 2023-90, authorizing the mayor to apply to the Summit County Land Bank for grant funds for the Ohio Department of Development Building Demolition and Site Revitalization Program for the demolition of the structure located at 1128.5 Woods Drive, and enter into an agreement with the Summit County Land Reutilization Corporation to demolish this structure and providing for immediate enactment.
If I may.
Yes.
Thank you. So this particular property is a property that was subject to a fire. There is an arson charge associated with it, as well as other additional charges associated with the homeowner. We have an opportunity to apply for this grant. The deadline is unfortunately coming up very quickly, so we are asking for first reading adoption of this. We are not yet sure whether we'll qualify for all the preconditions of this grant, but it is worthwhile for us to pursue it to see if we can get the monies. And it's definitely a blight in the neighborhood. It is not in a repairable condition. It has been, the building has been condemned by the Summit County Building Department, and it's a blight that needs to be abated.
Yes, Mr. Lawyer.
Mrs. Raber? So if we get the grant and we demo this, who owns the property?
Still, the ownership doesn't change, but the demolition occurs.
So we are getting a grant to make
The blight go away.
a blight go away, but a felon's property worth more.
It has a lien on it, so there's a lien holder. So
Okay.
there's a process for them, and they get notified as well. So they may exercise whatever they wish to on that as well.
Okay,
And to benefit all the neighbors in the neighborhood that has to look
Yeah,
at this thing. This is terrible.
yeah,
out
yeah.
there.
Yeah, I mean, I know the person that lives next door. It just frustrates me, the whole,
Well, we will be assessing we can assess the cost of our cost at least to the property, to the
Perfect.
property. So
Perfect.
that will also be on there. So there's a lien and there'll be assessment. I don't know how much actual value would be left after that.
whatever.
So,
When it's all said and done, someone will buy a nice buildable lot and improve improve that site. So that's what, thank you.
Could I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Any other discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Dennis Lowry.
Yes.
Craig Ciesick.
Yes.
Becky Allman.
Yes.
Jonathan Bolus.
Yes.
Adam Bozak.
Yes.
Mary Gutman.
Yes.
Carol Kilway.
Yes. Ordinance 2023-90 has been passed 7-0 at first reading. Next, we have at first reading ordinance 2023-91, authorizing the mayor to apply to the Summit County Land Bank for grant funds for the Ohio Department of Development Building Demolition and Site Revitalization Program for the demolition of the structure located at 892 Northwest Avenue, and enter into an agreement with the Summit County Land Reutilization Corporation to demolish these structures and providing for immediate enactment.
This too is the property that is out on the old muffler shop. It is a grant that we're applying for. It's 75-25, so meaning the grant would pay for 75% of it and the city would have to pay 25% of it. If we get it. I mean, it's just the application. This authorizes us to apply.
I would move to adopt.
Second.
Any other discussion?
Madam Chair, question for the mayor on this. And I know Councilwoman Kilway had asked about
Environmental.
any of the land testing and whatnot due to it being an oil change, muffler, all that kind of stuff. So if there are any future improvements made to that site, for example, a new roadway or something goes in, will they then, whether it be the city of Tallmadge, ODOT, whoever, be required to conduct those soil sample tests?
The subsoils, yes, but for a demo, you have to do an environmental for the demo. This house that burnt down on Woods Drive, we have to do an environmental. Is there asbestos still available? Or if it's beyond the burn of that. So our company that we utilize, our specialists, they're going out to Woods Drive to evaluate and to see if they can get samples, or is it beyond the burn factor? This building has to have samples
Okay.
for
So,
asbestos, shingles on the roof, and then that's part of the grant.
and they take soil samples then? I just want to clarify.
Not subsoil.
Not subsoil.
They
Okay.
do construction of the physical building. So if there were to be tanks in the ground or whatever, which could be, but we
Sure.
don't think so, but there's a lot of brownfield grants out there that we could apply for.
Okay. All right. I'm just kind of looking at down the line,
Yeah,
would we somehow be stuck with a large bill for cleanup of an
Well-
environmental issue that,
I don't think so. I mean, the worst scenario is you put a welcome to city of Tallmadge sign in, or goodbye, you're leaving the city of Tallmadge, and
Right.
put a flower bed out there.
okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Craig Ciesick,
Yes.
Becky Allman,
Yes.
Jonathan Bowles.
Yes.
Adam Bozak.
Yes,
Mary Gutman,
Yes.
Carol Kilway,
Yes.
Dennis Lowry.
Yes.
Ordinance 2023-91 has been passed 7-0 at first reading. Is there anything else for the Public Service Committee?
Hey, you can show them this picture.
Seeing none, I close committee.
Thank you, Mrs. Allman. Item 11, reports of special committees. I have nothing. Does anybody else? Announcements. Anybody have any announcements? All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Ciesick, Mrs. Kilroy, Mrs. Burton, please call the roll.
Becky Allman,
Yes.
Jonathan Bowles.
Yes.
Adam Bozak.
yes.
Mary Gutman.
Yes.
Carol Kilway.
Yes.
Dennis Lowry.
Yes.
Craig Ciesick.
Yes.
Thank you. It is 9 o'clock and we are adjourned. Good meeting.